Okay guys, look at this question. If 1 over cosine x minus sine x times tangent x is negative and sine x plus tangent x is positive, in which quadrant is angle x? Okay, we first expand the tangent in this inequality. So we have 1 over cosine of x minus sine x times tangent x is equal sine x divided by cosine x is negative. So we have 1 over cosine of x minus sine x times sine x is equal sine squared x divided by cosine x, or 1 minus sine squared x divided by cosine x, okay, is negative. And we know that 1 minus sine squared x is equal cosine squared x divided by cosine x is smaller than 0, and cosine squared x divided by cosine x is equal cosine x is smaller than 0. So since the cosine is negative, the value of x lies in either the second or the third quadrant. Okay, so x lies in second or third quadrant. Okay, so look at this inequality. Sine x plus tangent x is positive. Okay, so sine x plus tangent x is equal sine x divided by cosine x, positive. So if we common denominator, we have cosine x and the numerator is sine x times cosine x plus sine x is positive. And if we factor out sine x from the numerator, we have sine x times cosine x plus 1 divided by cosine x is greater than 0. Okay? So, an important point. We know that sine x and cosine x are between -1 and 1. It means -1 sine x or cosine x and 1. Okay, so cosine x plus 1 is positive. Here is positive because the maximum value of cosine is 1 and the minimum value of cosine is -1. So cosine plus 1 is positive. Okay, and we know that cosine x is negative and the denominator is negative. So sine is negative because negative times positive is negative, divided by negative is positive. So sine x is negative. So since sine x is negative, we know that x lies in third or fourth quadrant. So we know that x is in the second or third quadrant, and here we know that x is in the third or fourth quadrant. Therefore, the common region is the third quadrant, which means x must be in the third quadrant for both inequalities to hold at the same time. Another similar question. if cosine x is equal to the square root of cotangent x divided by cotangent x minus a squared, and a is an element of the set of real numbers, so which quadrant is angle x? So look at the equation. Since on side of the equation is a square root, so it's always positive. So the other side of the equation must be also positive. So cosine x is positive. So x lies in the second or fourth quadrant. If we assume that x is in the first quadrant, and we know that cotangent x is in the first quadrant is positive. Let's look at the inside the square root. Cotangent x is positive. However, the denominator of this fraction can still be negative. That means there are cases where a squared is greater than cotangent x. Okay? So if x is in the fourth quadrant, so we know that cotangent x is negative. Look at inside the square root. Cotangent x is negative. So cotangent x is negative minus a squared is negative. Okay, so in the numerator cotangent is negative and the denominator is negative. Okay, so negative divided by negative is positive. So as a result, whole fraction inside the square root is positive. So x is in the fourth quadrant. Guys, these questions are very important. Please write down all of these questions after I solve them.